WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Monrovia. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM around the world at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Anti-graft campaigners in Ghana criticize a court's ruling requesting Office of the Special Prosecutor to transfer cases to the Attorney General.
Issues around corruption and related to corruption in procurement, I believe we have not dealt with exhaustively. A purpose for this continues to exist.
Liberian lawmakers expel a member over violation of parliamentary regulations through unpatriotic comments.
Honorable Yekewa Kaluba, by his act, expulsion is therefore and hereby stripped of all rights.
Benin's opposition Democratic Party seeks engagement with President-elect Romol Wadani as it prepares for a new chapter. An African Union of Broadcasting concludes 17th General Assembly in the Gambia with focus on preserving Africa's media heritage. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Sankulu Jibril Janko.
Glad to have you joined us. This edition kicks off in Ghana as the ruling by High Court to remove prosecutorial powers of the Office of the Special Prosecutor OSP has met with serious backlash. Several anti-corruption campaigners in the country have criticized the decision of the Accra-based court, which has declared all ongoing cases by the office null and void. The court's ruling for to instruct the prosecutor's office to transfer all cases to the Attorney General until proper authorization is granted. Campaigners say the decision is a major setback and could weaken the country's fight against corruption. WDR's Nadidi Tete in Accra has the rest of the story.
Wednesday's ruling by an Accra High Court stripping the Office of the Special Prosecutor of its prosecutorial powers has sparked widespread concern among anti-corruption advocates, with many warning it could weaken Ghana's fight against graft. The court held that under Article 88 of the Constitution, only the Attorney General has the authority to initiate and conduct criminal prosecutions. It ruled that the Special Prosecutor must obtain prior authorization before pursuing such cases. As a result, all ongoing prosecutions initiated by the office have been declared null and void. The court further ruled that any convictions secured without the Attorney General's authorization are invalid, ordering fresh trials where applicable. Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, Mary Ada, says the ruling undermines progress made in strengthening accountability institutions.
The implications on the fight against corruption is taking us backwards. In fact, 8 years backwards. The purpose for founding this office to investigate and prosecute issues around corruption and related to corruption in procurement, I believe we have not dealt with exhaustively. The purpose for this continues to exist.
Meanwhile, the Attorney General has indicated that steps will be taken in the coming days to comply with the court's directive, including assuming responsibility for affected cases. But anti-graft campaigner and chairperson of the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption, Edem Senanu, said the basis on which the Attorney General is proceeding is flawed.
The High Court had no capacity because the issue and the case before it did not extend to whether cases in prosecution should be handed over from OSP to AGs. It didn't have that case before it. So the ruling cannot be interpreted that the High Court has ruled that the cases should be handed over. The AG has no basis, no leg to stand on in this matter.
He also accused the political class of working to undermine the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
It's interesting that we're seeing this kind of bipartisan sentiments from both sides of the political divide. It looks like they're afraid of the baby they gave birth to and they want to throw away the baby in the bathwater. We shouldn't allow them to do so. We can see through the mask of all that they are doing. The corruption must stop.
For now, many are looking forward to the outcome of a constitutional case currently before the Supreme Court, in which the legality of the Office of the Special Prosecutor's powers to prosecute is being challenged. For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
In Liberia, lawmakers have voted to expel Montserrado District 10 Representative Yeka Kolba over controversial remarks on a border dispute with Guinea. During a session on Friday, a House committee told lawmakers that Kolba, through his comments, violated parliamentary rules triggering the decision. The news of expulsion has since sparked political debate over sovereignty and the conduct of elected officials, although the Supreme Court of Liberia reportedly ordered a halt to the process. House leaders say they have not received any official communication. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Paco reports.
The House of Representatives has expelled lawmaker Yeke Koluba following a controversial statement. Deputy Chief Claire Tua Woods says the decision reflects the House's commitment to national unity and maintaining strong diplomatic ties with neighboring countries.
Honorable Yeke Koluba, Representative District 10, Mosoro County, and members of the 55th Legislature of the Republic of Liberia is hereby expelled as member of this honorable house for cause you to act in utterance of unpatriotic and unnationalistic characters which undermine the sovereign and territorial integrities of the Republic. 2. That Honorable Yeke Koluba, by his act expulsion, is therefore and hereby stripped of all rights.
Koluba, however, stood by his statements and accused the Liberian president of orchestrating his removal.
Let me say to the Liberian people, this country is for all of us. I've been asked on so many occasions to go and beg Mr. Bwakai for him to have clemency on me. If I do that, that means I betray the trust of the Liberian people. I brought the government to power, and if the Liberian people are suffering, we need to be here. And I know Mr. Bwakai have instructed that I be arrested. Let them come and arrest me. I'm not going to leave the country. This country does not carry Mr. Bwakai's name, and I owe no regret for my action, the way I speak.
After a series of hearings, 49 lawmakers voted in favor of his expulsion. The decision has a divided opinion, with some supporters saying he spoke the truth on a sensitive issue, while critics argue his comments undermined national unity and strained relations with Guinea. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Paco, Monrovia.
Well, away from parliamentary matters in Liberia to issues of regional influence, the federal government of Nigeria says it is stepping up efforts to host the African Monetary Institute. Abuja believes hosting this key continental financial institution will strengthen its role in the continent's economic integration. Well, for observers and financial experts, the development could be part of a broader plan by the Nigerian government to deepen monetary cooperation across the continent. WDR's Yechinu Sasetu in Abuja reports.
Nigeria has intensified its push to host the African Monetary Institute, a key institution of the African Union aimed at strengthening monetary coordination across the continent. Top government officials made the case during the IMF and World Bank spring meetings in Washington, highlighting the country's readiness to host the institute. Speaking on the development, Deputy Governor, Monetary Policy at the Central Bank of Nigeria, Muhammad Abdullahi, stressed the need for African countries to move beyond policy discussions and focus on implementation.
Right, perhaps this is that spark that we require, where all the pockets of work that's been done over the last 2 decades will then all of a sudden come together and significantly shorten the journey. Across the continent, there is a vast agreement on the need for us to come together. We might differ on a few of the details, which hopefully through the intergovernmental process.
Also speaking, Vice President for Economic Governance and Knowledge Management at the African Development Bank, Kevin Urama, outlined the core functions of the African Monetary Institute.
One of the key functions of the African Monetary Institute will also be harmonization of statistical and monetary policy frameworks, designing the trans-African automated real-time payment systems, and so many other things that can then bring us to better clarity and in addressing the convergence criteria issues that are often being raised.
The AMI, adopted by AU heads of state and government in February 2026, is designed to strengthen macroeconomic convergence, promote monetary policy coordination, and lay the foundation for a more integrated and resilient continental financial system. For WADR, Yechinu Sasetu reporting.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The African Union of Broadcasting, AUB, is wrapping up its 17th General Assembly in Banjul, marking 2 decades of its role in shaping Africa's media landscape. The 2-day meeting, held from April 16 to 17 under the theme AUB 20 Years Serving African Media, Heritage, Innovation and Transformation, brought together media executives, policymakers, academics, and key industry players from across the continent. Discussions focused on preserving Africa's media heritage, driving innovation, and strengthening institutions to keep pace with rapid technological change. Onengi Fineface is head of English desk at AUB.
This particular General Assembly is celebrating 20 years. And we are looking back at how far we have come. We are looking at what we are doing, and we are projecting into what we expect the mediascape in Africa to be like in the future. So basically, it's a stock take, but again, the opportunity for us to set new targets for the union. One of the sessions we had today dealt with sports rights. We've seen a situation where governments use taxpayers' money to sponsor, for instance, national players. They go out to play in tournaments, but for you as a citizen of the same country to watch the match, you have to subscribe to pay TV, when there is a national broadcaster that can give you that service for free, but because they can't get the right. So we are looking at how to solve all of those problems, what we can do to make sure we provide these services to our people. Remember, the national broadcasters, who are the main focus of the union, are basically public service broadcasters as well. We are not profit-oriented, it's service-oriented. So we hope that at the end of this discussion, at the end of conversations, we'll come up with some clear-cut pathways to solve some of those pressing challenges, like that of sport rights, like that of technological innovation on the African continent.
Onengi Fineface is head of the English desk at AUB. Now to Benin, where attention is turning to the country's opposition, including the Democrats, and the stance they will adopt in the new government following the election of Romuald Wadani as president of Benin. Between calls for dialogue, cautious engagement, and possible opposition, the signal remains measured. From Cotonou, Aziz Adam Sule reports, as presented by Augustine Coley.
The opposition political party, the Democrats, which did not participate in the recent presidential and local elections, says it is preparing to reorganize. The party indicates it will first seek engagement with the newly elected president, Romuald Wadani, before defining its political direction. One of its vice presidents, Eugene Azatasu, says consultations are ongoing within the party.
It is certain that this will be very difficult for us, especially since we have no elected representatives and lack the necessary means. It will be challenging, but what remains is our vision for the development of Benin. What we have already decided at the national coordination level is that we will address a letter of audience to the president-elect as soon as he is installed. Following those discussions, we will submit a memorandum. It is the outcome of that memorandum that will determine the form in which we will organize ourselves and the manner in which we will conduct our struggle.
There are also indications that a political truce could emerge, particularly around proposed constitutional amendments, allowing opposition parties to engage constructively with the government while maintaining their independence.
A report by our Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Sule, voiced by Augustine Coley. In Mali, rescue operations are ongoing for survivors trapped under the rubble of a collapsed building in the town of Kita, not far from the capital, Bamako. The incident occurred when a multi-story building under construction suddenly gave way while several people were on site. The structure was intended to serve as a school facility. Civil protection officers quickly responded to the scene. According to the provisional toll, several people are reported dead while 9 injured and evacuated to the local hospital. Some individuals remain missing as search operations continue. Osman Omar reports.
Rescue efforts are ongoing this Friday to ensure that no one remains trapped under the debris. Building collapses have become increasingly frequent in Mali in recent months, particularly in Bamako. The most recent similar incident left 6 people dead and about 20 others injured. The recurring tragedies have reignited debate over construction regulation in the country, particularly the quality of building materials, many of which are imported. Authorities have announced the opening of a wide-ranging investigation into the issuance of building permits, compliance with urban planning standards, and the use of qualified engineers in construction projects. It is worth noting that major cities in southern Mali have experienced rapid and often unregulated urban growth in recent years. The rising demand for housing and commercial spaces have driven a surge in construction, frequently carried out without adequate technical supervision.
Usman Omar reporting. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Anti-graft campaigners in Ghana criticize the court's ruling requesting Office of the Special Prosecutor to transfer cases to the Attorney General. Liberian lawmakers expel a member over violation of parliamentary regulations through unpatriotic comments. Benin's opposition Democratic Party seeks engagement with President-elect Romol Wadani as it prepares for a new chapter. The African Union of Broadcasting concludes the 17th General Assembly in Banjul with focus on preserving Africa's media heritage. Still ahead in the news, we have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
African states and international partners are calling for urgent and coordinated action to prevent migrant deaths and disappearances across the continent. The call comes ahead of the 2026 International Migration Review Forum following consultations in Cairo, Egypt. Christopher Atiche tells us more.
African governments and partners are stepping up efforts to address the rising number of migrant deaths and disappearances along migration routes. This follows a 3-day consultation in Cairo under the Global Compact for Migration, bringing together officials, humanitarian agencies, and civil society groups. The meeting produced recommendations to guide Africa's position at the International Migration Review Forum in May. According to the International Organization for Migration, more than 82,000 migrants have died or gone missing globally since 2014, including 19,000 in Africa, though the true figure may be higher. Participants warned that many victims remain unidentified, including families without answers, and called for better systems to trace missing migrants and support affected families. They also stressed the need to prevent death, improve data collection, and strengthen cooperation across borders. Gaps in data and coordination were highlighted as key challenges, with calls for better information sharing to guide timely interventions. The outcomes are expected to shape Africa's voice at the Global Forum as countries push for stronger international action to save lives and protect migrants.
Christopher Atiche reporting.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
The guest interview focuses on the 17th General Assembly of the African Union of Broadcasting AUB on the way in the Gambian capital Banjul. It is being held under the theme AUB 20 Years Serving African Media, Heritage, Innovation and Transformation. Discussions are focused on preserving Africa's media heritage, driving innovation, and strengthening institutions to respond to rapid technological change. The forum brings together media executives, policymakers, academics, and industry stakeholders from across the continent to reflect on progress and address emerging challenges in broadcasting. In an interview with WDR, Abdullah C., Director General of the Gambia Radio and Television Services, GRTS, highlights the importance of the gathering.
Opportunities for training for more of our journalists, that is GRTS, the Gambia Radio and Television, and Gambian media personnel as well, especially in the area of AI. And in fact, we've started that. And day before yesterday, we had a session on how to use AI in content production. The other one is funding models for public broadcasters. You know, funding for public broadcasters is a challenge. Many broadcasters are facing financial difficulties. How are you going to broaden our imagination, to bring in new innovations, new ways of doing things, different from the way we are doing them currently. Because currently, the whole world is struggling when it comes to public broadcasting. Why? Because of the emergence of new media, online media. 20, 30 years ago, public broadcasters have almost a near monopoly in news production. That is no longer the case. We have many, many, many online media outlets that are competing and sometimes outperforming public broadcasters, not because they have better content, but because they are free to do certain sensationalization form of journalism that public broadcasters can't do. 2, sports rights. Countries like the Gambia, Nigeria, and others, if we want to show the World Cup or the African Cup of Nations, the rights are too expensive. We pay in a whole lot of exorbitant money. So we want to discuss how best we can bring that down so that all public broadcasters or all broadcasters in Africa can have access to sports rights.
What practical solutions do you expect to emerge from this discussion?
When it comes to sports rights, practically what we hope to do is to have Africa as one bargaining continent. If we are able to do that practically, we'll be able to discuss with the media, the ones who are holding the media rights, to bring down their prices. If Gambia does it on its way, Senegal does it on its own, Nigeria on its own, then the fragmentation will give powers to the rights owners. But if we call as one bargaining power, as one AUB, and we say, okay, this is what we want. If you don't do it, none of us is going to participate. Then I think that would work. When it comes to skills training and experience sharing, practically what we want is the African Union of Broadcasters to be more assertive, more forthcoming in giving opportunities to member states to train their personnel in new ways of broadcasting, new ways of doing things, especially in AI. Why? Because AI, when best used, is a very good tool. But if misused, it can cause the reverse. It can set societies apart, and we don't want that.
So are African broadcasters moving fast enough to adapt to the transformation, digital transformation?
I would say no, we are not fast enough, and that's why this meeting is very, very, very important. If you look at the theme of the meeting, heritage, innovation, and transformation, we have to celebrate our heritage. We have to also innovate new ways of doing things, and we have to transform the entire landscape. We are not quick enough, we are not fast enough. I hope I would have wished we are faster than the pace we are at, and we'll discuss that here. We should be moving faster because the world is evolving faster than we are changing our ways of doing broadcasting. The first thing that we need to do is to move away from the fear of change. Most public broadcasters are very bureaucratic, and when you bring new systems, new innovative way of doing things, many people don't want to change because they are comfortable being the way they have been for the past 20 years. And that's no longer the way to do things. We have to bring a very disruptive system. We disrupt the whole system, bring control chaos everywhere before we can get the best. But if not, we won't work. Because imagine you want to do maybe an OV. For the public broadcasters, you need 20 or 30 people to do that. When a private individual can use 2 or 3 people, or even one person with a smartphone to get the same results. So we have to look at those things. We have to be innovative. We have to let go of what the system that we are used to 10, 30, 20 years ago. No, and that would be a big challenge. But then we have to push on.
Abdullah Issei, Director General of the Gambia Radio and Television Services, GRTS, speaking with our Banjul correspondent, Sang Donald Mendy. Well, in sports, we begin with athletics because World Athletics has rejected requests from 11 elite athletes seeking to change their nationality to Turkey. The body says the move appeared to be part of a coordinated recruitment strategy, raising concerns over the integrity of eligibility rules. The athletes, who include competitors from Kenya, Jamaica, Nigeria, and Russia, are now ineligible to represent Turkey in international competitions. In football, the race for a place in the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup continues today as second leg matches in the African qualifiers get underway. Benin will be looking to overturn a 3-1 first leg defeat when they face Burkina Faso in Lomé. Meanwhile, Senegal takes on Tunisia after both sides play out a 1-1 draw in the first leg. And away from Africa, France has surged back into contention in the UEFA coefficient rankings thanks to strong results from Paris Saint-Germain PSG and RS Strasbourg. PSG's 2-0 win over Liverpool and Strasbourg dominant Conference League victory has boosted France's position, giving them a late edge with 2 clubs still in UEFA competitions. While England remains firmly on top with 4 teams still active. France is now pushing hard to climb the rankings as the season nears its end. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink and West Africa Democracy Radio Broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Juve for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. We're also online at wadr.org, which is currently under maintenance. I am Sankule Jibril Janko. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.